The queen collapsed in the throne room, flames licking beneath her skin like trapped lightning. Three massive titans, her mates, her protectors, her supposed salvation, stood frozen at the edges of the chamber, unable to approach. Not out of cruelty, out of terror. Because the last time Caspian had touched her, his instincts nearly crushed her throat. The last time Malik kissed her, she screamed. And Varen? Varen couldn't even meet her eyes anymore. Tessa Vale had saved them from eternal winter. Now, spring was killing her, and the men who claimed to love her could only watch her burn. If you want to see how she survives what's coming, stay until the end, like this video. Comment what city you're watching from. Let's go. Tessa woke to the smell of scorched silk. Again. She rolled onto her side, wincing as the sheets clung to her damp skin, and stared at the blackened handprint seared into the pillow beside her head. Her handprint. She'd done that in her sleep, the fourth time this week. Outside the tall windows of her chambers, the citadel gardens bloomed in violent excess. Vines crawled up stone walls overnight. Flowers the size of dinner plates burst open at dawn, their petals thick and fleshy, colors too bright to be natural. Spring had returned to the kingdom of the Titans after centuries of frozen silence, and it was eating her alive. Tessa sat up slowly, every muscle protesting. Her body felt like it had been wrung out and left to dry. The power she'd absorbed when she broke the winter curse, ancient, wild, meant for gods, not humans, coiled inside her like a second heartbeat. Sometimes it purred, sometimes it snarled. This morning, it felt like broken glass grinding through her veins. She pressed a hand to her sternum and breathed through the pain. The door opened without a knock. "You're awake." Varen's voice was flat, clinical. He stepped inside carrying a leather satchel, his silver-white hair tied back, his expression carefully neutral. He looked like he was visiting a patient, not his mate. Tessa's chest tightened for an entirely different reason. "I'm awake," she said. Varen set the satchel on the table near the window and began unpacking vials, powders, instruments she didn't recognize. He moved with precision, his hand steady. He didn't look at her. "Any new symptoms?" he asked. "Define new." "Tessa," she exhaled. "The usual, heat, pain." I burned the pillow again. Varen's jaw tightened, but he nodded and made a note in the small leather journal he carried. Always notes, always records. As if documenting her deterioration would somehow prevent it. "I need to take another blood sample," he said. "Of course you do." This time he did glance at her, brief and sharp. "If you'd prefer I stop trying to save your life." "I didn't say that." "Then give me your arm." Tessa stood and crossed to him, barefoot on the cold stone floor. She extended her left arm without a word. Varen rolled up her sleeve and paused. New bruises had appeared overnight, dark purple splotches blooming across her forearm like ink stains. He touched one gently, and Tessa hissed. "They're spreading faster," Varen muttered. "I'm aware." He prepared the needle with the same detached efficiency. Tessa watched him work and tried not to think about the fact that he hadn't kissed her in 6 days, hadn't touched her beyond what was medically necessary in 9. The bond between them, once warm, electric, impossible to ignore, felt muted now, distant, like he was standing on the other side of a thick pane of glass. The needle pricked her skin. Blood welled up, darker than it should be, almost violet in the morning light. "Varen," she said quietly. "Not now. You can't avoid me forever." His hand stilled. For a moment she thought he might actually respond. Then he withdrew the needle, pressed a cloth to her arm, and turned back to his instruments. "I'm not avoiding you. I'm working. You're terrified of me. I'm terrified for you. There's a difference." "Is there?" He slammed a vial down harder than necessary. The glass didn't break, but the sound echoed. When he turned to face her, his eyes, pale blue, usually so controlled, were blazing. "Do you have any idea what it's like?" he said, voice low and shaking. "To feel the bond screaming at me to touch you, to hold you, to—" He stopped himself. "And knowing that if I lose control for even a second, I could kill you?" Tessa's throat tightened. "You think I want this distance?" Varen continued. "You think I enjoy watching you deteriorate while I play scientist? I'm trying to fix this, Tessa. I'm trying to find a way to keep you alive. So forgive me if I don't have the luxury of—" The door slammed open. Malik stood in the doorway, breathing hard, his dark eyes wild. His shirt was torn at the shoulder, and there were scratches down his neck, fresh ones. "She collapsed again," he said. Tessa's stomach dropped. "Who?" "One of the courtiers, third one this week. They're saying it's the power, that it's leaking out of you and poisoning the citadel." "That's not—" "I know it's not true," Malik interrupted. "But they're scared, Tessa, and scared people talk." Varen cursed under his breath and began packing up his instruments. "We need to move up the timeline." "What timeline?" Tessa demanded. Neither of them answered. Malik crossed the room in 3 long strides and gripped her shoulders. His hands were shaking. "You need to stay inside today. No public appearances, no council meetings, just stay here." Tessa pulled back. "I'm not hiding. I'm not asking you to hide. I'm asking you to be smart." "Smart?" She laughed, bitter and sharp. "I'm dying, Malik, slowly, and the 3 of you are acting like I'm made of glass. You won't touch me, you won't talk to me, you won't—" "I can't touch you." Malik's voice cracked. "Do you understand? 2 days ago, I kissed your forehead and nearly broke your collarbone because I couldn't control the bond. Yesterday, Caspian tried to help you up the stairs and you screamed. We're not avoiding you because we want to. We're avoiding you because we're fucking dangerous." The silence that followed was suffocating. Tessa looked between them, Varen's clenched jaw, Malik's haunted eyes, and felt something inside her crack. "Then what's the point?" she whispered. Malik flinched. "What? What's the point of the bond? What's the point of being mates if you can't even stand near me?" "Tessa, get out. Don't, both of you, get out." Varen picked up his satchel without a word and left. Malik lingered, his expression anguished, but Tessa turned her back on him. After a moment, she heard his footsteps retreat and the door click shut. She stood alone in the center of the room, surrounded by blooming death and scorched silk, and let herself shake. What? The throne room was an atrium of glass and iron designed centuries ago to let in light during the endless winter. Now, with spring returned, it was almost unbearable. Sunlight poured through the vaulted ceiling, illuminating every corner, every crack, every weakness. Tessa stood at the center of the dais, flanked by empty thrones. Caspian's throne, Malik's throne, Varen's throne, all empty. She'd insisted on attending the council meeting alone, partly out of spite, partly because she needed to prove to herself, to them, to everyone, that she wasn't fragile. The council members sat in a semicircle below her, their faces carefully blank. Lord Eris, sharp-featured and silver-tongued. Lady Merrin, who smiled like a blade. Commander Thorne, who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. "Your Majesty," Eris began, his voice smooth. "We're concerned." "About?" "Your health." Tessa's jaw tightened. "I'm fine." "With respect, Your Majesty, you don't look fine." A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Tessa straightened her spine. "The transition has been difficult, but I'm managing." "Are you?" Lady Merrin leaned forward, her expression sympathetic in a way that felt like a threat. "We've heard reports. Servants collapsing near your chambers. Plants growing wild overnight. The Titans themselves refusing to—" "The Titans are managing their own transitions," Tessa interrupted. "Spring awakens old instincts. It's temporary. And if it's not, it will be." "But what if—" The room tilted. Tessa blinked, and suddenly the floor was rushing up to meet her. She heard someone shout, felt hands catching her, too many hands, too rough, and then the world went white with pain. When she opened her eyes, she was on the floor, gasping. Blood trickled from her nose. Her hands were smoking. The council members had backed away, staring at her like she was a live grenade. "Your Majesty," Commander Thorne said carefully, "perhaps you should rest." Tessa tried to push herself up, but her arms wouldn't cooperate. Her vision swam. She could feel the power inside her thrashing, wild and formless, trying to claw its way out. "I'm fine," she managed. No one believed her. Eris cleared his throat. "We believe it would be prudent to postpone further public duties until you've recovered." "I don't need to recover. I need—" "Your Majesty." Merrin's voice was soft, pitying. "You're scaring people." The words hit like a slap. Tessa looked around the room, at the fear in their eyes, the way they held themselves ready to bolt, and felt the last thread of her composure snap. Get out, she said. Your Majesty, all of you, get out. They fled. Tessa stayed on the floor, breathing through the pain until she heard footsteps behind her. Don't. She didn't turn around. Don't say anything. Caspian stopped a few feet away. She could feel him there, massive and still, radiating tension. You collapsed, he said finally. I'm aware. In front of the entire council. I'm aware. A pause, then quieter. You're bleeding. Tessa touched her nose and her fingers came away red. She stared at the blood, too dark, almost black, and laughed. It sounded unhinged even to her own ears. This is what you wanted, isn't it? She said, for me to stay inside, to hide, to stop pretending I'm strong enough to... That's not what I want. Then what do you want, Caspian? Another pause. Longer this time. I want you alive. Tessa finally turned to look at him. Caspian stood in the shaft of sunlight, his massive frame casting shadows across the floor. His dark hair was tied back, his expression unreadable. But his hands were clenched so tight his knuckles were white. You can't even look at me, Tessa said softly. That's not true. You haven't touched me in 2 weeks. Because the last time I did, I nearly broke you. I'm not broken. Not yet. The words hung in the air between them, sharp and final. Tessa forced herself to her feet, swaying slightly. Caspian moved as if to help her, then stopped himself. The aborted gesture hurt more than the collapse had. I saved you, she said, her voice shaking. I broke the winter curse. I bound myself to all 3 of you because I thought... She stopped. I thought it meant something. It does. Then act like it. Tessa, no. You don't get to keep me at arm's length and pretend it's for my own good. Either I'm your mate or I'm not. Either this bond means something or it doesn't. You don't get to have it both ways. Caspian's expression cracked, just for a moment. She saw the anguish beneath the control, the way he was holding himself together by sheer force of will. If I lose control, he said quietly, I will kill you. Do you understand? Not hurt you, not scare you, kill you. And I would rather cut off my own hands than let that happen. Tessa's eyes burned. So what am I supposed to do? She whispered. Just wait? Hope the power stops eating me alive before you 3 work up the courage to touch me again? Varen is terrified. Malik can barely look at me. And you... Her voice broke. You're the worst of all, because you're acting like I'm already dead. That's not... Isn't it? Caspian opened his mouth, closed it. For the first time since she'd known him, he had no answer. Tessa turned and walked away, her steps echoing in the empty throne room. She didn't look back. If she had, she might have seen the way Caspian's shoulders shook, the way he pressed a hand to his chest, as if the bond itself was tearing him apart. But she didn't look back. She was too tired to care. That night, Tessa dreamed of fire. She stood in the center of the Citadel gardens, surrounded by flowers that screamed. Their petals were mouths, opening and closing, shrieking in voices that sounded like her own. The vines wrapped around her ankles, her wrists, pulling her down into the earth. And standing at the edges of the garden, watching, were 3 shadows. Massive, silent, unmoving. She called out to them, but her voice wouldn't work. She reached out, but her arms wouldn't move. The vines pulled tighter, dragging her under, and the shadows just stood there, watching. Tessa woke with a scream caught in her throat. Her chambers were dark. The moon hung low outside the window, casting everything in silver. For a moment, she just lay there, breathing, trying to convince herself it was only a dream. Then she felt it. The power inside her had shifted. It wasn't thrashing anymore. It was listening. Tessa sat up slowly. The air around her shimmered with heat. When she looked down at her hands, they were glowing, faint, pulsing, like embers. No, she whispered. Not now. Please. Not now. The glow brightened. Tessa stumbled out of bed and pressed her hands against the cold stone wall, trying to ground herself. But the power didn't care. It wanted out. It wanted to burn, to expand, to consume. She could feel it reaching for the bond. Reaching for Caspian, for Malik, for Varen. And if it found them, if it pulled them in while she was like this? The door burst open. Varen stood in the doorway, his expression wild. I felt it. What's happening? I can't, Tessa gasped. I can't control it. Breathe. Just breathe. I'm trying. The glow spread up her arms. The stones beneath her hands began to crack. Varen crossed to her in 2 strides, grabbed her shoulders, and the bond surged. Tessa felt it like a whip crack through her chest. Varen's instincts roared to life, primal and uncontrollable, and his grip tightened to the edge of pain. She saw his eyes flash, saw the struggle, and then he was shoving her away hard, sending her sprawling onto the floor. Don't touch me, he snarled. Don't! He staggered back, breathing hard, his hands shaking. Tessa stared up at him from the floor, her heart pounding. I'm sorry, Varen said hoarsely. I'm sorry, I can't. He turned and fled. Tessa stayed on the floor, the glow fading from her hands, and finally let herself cry. Because she understood now. She was alone, truly, completely alone, and no one was coming to save her. Morning came too bright and too fast. Tessa didn't sleep after Varen left. She sat on the floor of her chambers, watching the sky turn from black to gray to gold, feeling the power inside her pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. It had quieted after the surge, retreating back into whatever dark corner of her body it had carved out for itself. But it was still there, still waiting, always waiting. When the sun finally cleared the horizon, she dragged herself upright and dressed in the plainest thing she could find, a simple gray tunic and trousers. No jewelry, no crown, nothing that screamed queen. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Hollowed cheeks, dark circles, skin so pale it seemed translucent. The bruises on her arms had spread overnight, creeping up past her elbows like spilled ink. She looked like she was dying, because she was. Tessa turned away from the mirror and headed for the door. If she was going to burn out, she'd do it on her feet, not cowering in her chambers while the Citadel whispered about her weakness. The hallways were quieter than usual. Servants hurried past without meeting her eyes. Guards stationed at corners stiffened when she approached, their gazes sliding away as if looking at her directly might be dangerous. She felt their fear like a physical thing pressing against her skin. By the time she reached the lower levels of the Citadel, her hands were shaking. The training yard was an open courtyard surrounded by high stone walls. Normally, it would be full of soldiers running drills, sparring, sharpening weapons. Today it was empty except for one figure moving through a weapons form in the center. Malik. Tessa stopped at the edge of the yard and watched. He moved like violence contained in flesh, all controlled power and lethal grace. His shirt was discarded, his dark skin gleaming with sweat despite the morning chill. Twin blades flashed in his hands as he spun, slashed, pivoted. It was hypnotic. Beautiful in the way a storm was beautiful. Then he saw her. The blades froze mid-swing. Malik went utterly still, chest heaving, eyes locked on hers. For a moment, neither of them moved. You shouldn't be here, Malik said finally. I needed air. There's air in your chambers. There's suffocation in my chambers. Malik's jaw tightened. He lowered the blade slowly, deliberately, as if any sudden movement might set something off. Tessa, don't. She stepped into the yard. Don't tell me to rest. Don't tell me to be careful. I can't hear it again. Then what do you want me to say? I don't know. Anything. Nothing. Just... She stopped, her throat closing. Just don't look at me like that. Like what? Like I'm already gone. Malik flinched. The blades clattered to the ground as he dropped them, his hands curling into fists at his sides. That's not... Isn't it? Tessa crossed her arms, hugging herself. You can't touch me. You can barely stand to be in the same room as me. What am I supposed to think? That I'm trying not to kill you? The words exploded out of him, raw and jagged. That every instinct I have is screaming at me to claim you, mark you, hold you so tight nothing can take you away. And I can't, because if I give in even a fraction, I'll break you. Do you understand how that feels? To want something so badly it's tearing you apart and knowing you can't have it? Tessa's breath hitched. Malik took a step toward her, then stopped himself. I dream about you, he said, his voice dropping. Every night. I dream I'm holding you and you're warm and safe and whole. And then I wake up and remember that I'm the danger, that I'm the thing you need protection from. So yeah, maybe I can't look at you the way I used to. Not because you're dying, because I'm the one who might kill you. The silence that followed was broken only by the distant sound of wind through stone. Tessa swallowed hard. I'm not fragile. You collapsed yesterday, in front of the entire council. I had a bad moment. You're having a lot of bad moments. Because I'm alone! The words ripped out of her, louder than she intended. Because the three of you are so busy trying to protect me that you've left me with nothing. No touch, no comfort, nothing. And I'm supposed to just… what? Be grateful? Be patient. I'm dying, Malik, and I'm doing it alone. Malik's expression crumbled. You think I want this? I think you're scared. Of course I'm scared. I've watched you waste away for weeks. I've watched the power eat you from the inside. I've felt the bond screaming at me that something's wrong and I can't fix it. So yeah, I'm terrified. And maybe that makes me a coward, but at least I'm a coward who's keeping you alive. Are you? Tessa's voice went quiet. Dangerous. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're just watching me die slowly. The words hit like a blade between the ribs. Malik stared at her, his chest heaving, his eyes burning with something that looked like anguish. Then he turned and walked away without another word. Tessa stood alone in the training yard, surrounded by discarded weapons and echoes, and wondered if she'd just severed the last thread holding them together. She found Varen in the library. It was a massive circular room built into one of the Citadel's towers, shelves climbing 3 stories high and filled with books so old their spines had cracked and faded. Varen sat at a table in the center, surrounded by open text, scattered notes, vials of strange liquids. He didn't look up when she entered. I'm busy, he said. I can see that. Then leave. Tessa closed the door behind her and crossed to the table. She picked up one of the books, something about ancient binding rituals, and set it down again. What are you looking for? A cure. For? You. The word hung in the air like an accusation. Tessa sat down across from him. Varen, look at me. I'm working. Varen, I said I'm working. She reached across the table and shoved his notes aside. Papers scattered. One of the vials tipped over, spilling pale green liquid across the wood. Varen's head snapped up, his eyes flashing with anger. What the hell are you… Stop, Tessa said. Just stop. Stop researching. Stop experimenting. Stop treating me like a problem you can solve if you just work hard enough. That's exactly what you are. The bluntness of it stole her breath. Varen stood abruptly, his chair scraping against stone. You're a problem. A very specific, very deadly problem. You absorbed power meant for beings who've existed for millennia. Your human body can't contain it. It's breaking you down from the inside, cell by cell. And if I don't find a way to stop it, you'll be dead in a month. Maybe less. So yes, you're a problem, and I'm going to solve it whether you like my methods or not. Tessa stood too, her hands trembling. I'm not a problem. I'm your mate. You're both. Then maybe you should have thought of that before you let me bind myself to 3 creatures who can't even touch me without risking my life. Varen went very still. You think I wanted this? I think you saw an opportunity and you took it. You needed a queen. You needed someone to break the curse, and I was convenient. That's not… isn't it? Tessa's voice rose. Be honest, Varen. If you'd known this would happen, that I'd become this fragile, dying thing you have to manage from a distance, would you still have let me bind myself to you? The question hung between them, sharp and unforgiving. Varen's throat worked, his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. I don't know. Something in Tessa's chest shattered. Get out, Varen said. What? Get out. I have work to do. Varen, get out. Tessa turned and left before he could see her cry. By midday, the Citadel was buzzing with rumors. The Queen had fought with Lord Malik in the training yard, shouted at him, driven him away. The Queen had disrupted Master Varen's research, destroyed his work. The Queen was unstable. The Queen was dangerous. The Queen was losing her mind. Tessa heard the whispers as she walked the corridors, saw the sideways glances. felt the weight of judgment pressing down on her from all sides. She wanted to scream. Instead, she went to the one place she thought she might find peace, the throne room. It was empty when she arrived. Sunlight poured through the glass ceiling, illuminating the three massive thrones on the dais. Caspians, Maliks, Varens. She stood at the base of the steps and stared up at them, feeling small and hollow and utterly alone. "They're worried about you." Tessa spun. Commander Thorne stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. He was older than the other guards, gray threading through his dark hair, scars marking his hands and face. He'd served the Titans since before the Winter Curse. If anyone understood them, it was him. "Everyone's worried about me," Tessa said. "It's exhausting." Thorne stepped into the room, his boots echoing on stone. "They're not wrong to be. I know that. Do you?" He stopped a few feet away, studying her. "Because from where I stand, you look like someone who's trying very hard to pretend everything's fine." Tessa laughed, bitter and sharp. "What else am I supposed to do? Rest. Recover. Let the healers—" "There's nothing to recover from. The power's eating me alive, and no amount of rest is going to change that." Thorne's expression softened slightly. "Then what's your plan?" "I don't have one. That's not good enough." "I know." Tessa sank down onto the bottom step, suddenly too tired to stand. "But I don't know what else to do. The Titans can't touch me. The Council thinks I'm weak. The power inside me is getting stronger every day, and her voice cracked, "I don't know how to fix any of it." Thorne was quiet for a long moment. Then he sat down beside her, groaning slightly as his knees creaked. "Can I tell you something?" he said. "Can I stop you?" A ghost of a smile. "The Titans aren't infallible. They're powerful, yes. Ancient, nearly immortal, but they're not perfect. And right now they're terrified." "I know." "No, I don't think you do." Thorne turned to look at her. "You're the first mate any of them have had in over 1,000 years. The first bond strong enough to survive the curse. And they're watching you die, slowly, painfully, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. That kind of helplessness, it breaks people, even Titans." Tessa's throat tightened. "They love you," Thorne continued, "more than I've ever seen them love anything, and that's why they're so afraid. Because love makes you vulnerable, and vulnerability is something they haven't felt in centuries." "So what am I supposed to do?" Tessa whispered. "Just accept that I'm dying? That they'll never be able to touch me again?" "No." Thorne's voice was firm. "You fight, you survive, and you prove to them and to yourself that you're stronger than this curse." "I'm not strong. I can't even stand in front of the Council without collapsing." "Strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up." Tessa looked at him, this scarred warrior who'd survived centuries of winter, and felt something in her chest loosen slightly. "Thank you," she said. Thorne nodded and stood, his knees creaking again. "For what it's worth, Your Majesty, I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself." He left before she could respond. Tessa sat alone in the throne room, surrounded by empty seats and broken bonds, and made a decision. If no one was going to save her, she'd save herself. She started small. That evening, she went to the healer's wing and demanded access to their records. They tried to refuse, gently, respectfully, but firmly. She ignored them and walked in anyway. Spent 3 hours reading every report Varen had filed about her condition, every blood sample, every theory, every failed experiment. The picture that emerged was grim. The power inside her was foreign, incompatible with human biology. It was burning through her cells faster than her body could regenerate them. Varen had tried everything: binding spells, dampening rituals, alchemical solutions. Nothing worked. The power was too strong, too wild, and it was tied directly to the bond with the Titans, which meant severing it would kill her just as surely as the power would. She was trapped. Tessa closed the last report and sat back, her head pounding. There had to be another way. Something Varen hadn't considered. Something... The door opened. Caspian filled the doorway, his massive frame blocking out the light from the corridor. His expression was thunderous. "You shouldn't be here," he said. I needed to see the records. Varen said no visitors. Varen doesn't control me. Caspian stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. The space suddenly felt much smaller. What are you looking for? A solution. There isn't one. Not yet. Tessa? He stopped himself, his jaw working. You need to trust us. We're doing everything we can. Are you? She stood, paper scattering from her lap. Because it doesn't feel like it. It feels like you're all so busy protecting me that you've forgotten I'm part of this too. We haven't forgotten. Then let me help. You can't. I can't what, Caspian? I can't think. I can't research. I can't do anything except sit in my chambers and wait to die. Her voice rose. I'm not helpless. I never said you were. You treat me like I am. Caspian's hands clenched. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Tessa threw the report she was holding. It hit his chest and fell to the floor. I saved you. I broke the curse. I bound myself to 3 titans because I thought... She stopped, her breath hitching. I thought it would mean something, that I'd matter. But all I am is a problem you're trying to solve. That's not true. Then prove it. Tessa stepped closer, her heart pounding. Touch me. Hold me. Prove that I'm more than just a dying human you have to manage. Caspian went very still. You know I can't. Can't or won't. Both. The word was a knife between them. Tessa felt something inside her break. Then we're done. What? I can't do this anymore. Her voice was shaking but steady. I can't keep pretending that this bond means something when all it's done is turn me into a burden. So I'm done. Done waiting. Done hoping. Done burning myself out for men who can't even stand to be near me. Caspian's expression cracked. Tessa, don't. Leave me alone, Caspian. Please. I said leave me alone. For a moment she thought he might refuse, thought he might cross the room and damn the consequences. But he didn't. He just stood there, his massive shoulders sagging, looking more broken than she'd ever seen him. Then he turned and walked out. Tessa sank to the floor surrounded by scattered reports and empty promises, and let the power inside her flare unchecked. It burned through her veins like liquid fire, scorching everything it touched. She didn't try to stop it, didn't try to control it. Let it burn, she thought. Let it all burn. The room filled with heat. Papers began to smolder. The air shimmered. And somewhere deep in the citadel, 3 titans felt the surge through the bond and knew that something fundamental had shifted. She didn't remember falling asleep. One moment she was burning. The next, she was waking up on a cot in the healer's wing with no memory of how she'd gotten there. Her body ached like she'd been beaten. Her throat was raw. When she tried to sit up, a hand pressed gently on her shoulder. Easy. It was a young healer, a woman with kind eyes and graying hair. Her name tag read Alara. What happened? Tessa's voice came out as a croak. You collapsed. Again. Alara helped her sit up slowly, propping pillows behind her. One of the guards found you unconscious in the records room. You'd burned through half the archives. Tessa's stomach dropped. I didn't mean... I know. The power got away from you. Alara's expression was sympathetic but firm. You're lucky you didn't burn the whole wing down. Where are they? The Titans? Alara hesitated. Lord Caspian is outside. He's been there all night. And the others? Master Varen is in his laboratory. Lord Malik is... She trailed off. I'm not sure where Lord Malik is. Tessa's chest tightened. Alara moved around the cot, checking Tessa's vitals with practiced efficiency. Your temperature is still elevated, pulse erratic. The bruising has spread further. She paused. How long has it been since you ate? Tessa couldn't remember. I'll have food sent up. Alara's tone left no room for argument. And you're to stay here for observation, at least until... The door exploded inward. Malik stood in the doorway, breathing hard, his eyes wild. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead. His shirt was torn. He looked like he'd been in a fight. Out, he said to Alara. Lord Malik, she needs... Out! Alara fled. Malik crossed the room in 3 strides and grabbed Tessa's face in both hands. His grip was too tight, almost painful, but she didn't pull away. She couldn't. The bond between them roared to life. electric and overwhelming. "Don't you ever do that again," Malik said, his voice shaking. "Don't you ever burn yourself out like that. Do you understand me? I didn't mean to. I felt it through the bond. I felt you giving up, letting go, and I—" His voice cracked. "I can't lose you. I won't." "Malik," he kissed her. It was desperate and messy and too hard, his teeth catching her lip, his hands tangling in her hair. The bond surged between them, wild and uncontrolled. Tessa felt his instincts rising, felt the danger, but she didn't care. She kissed him back with everything she had, pouring weeks of loneliness and fear and longing into it. Then the pain hit. Tessa gasped against his mouth as the power inside her flared, reacting to the bond, to his touch. It felt like her ribs were cracking, like her chest was splitting open. She tried to pull back, but Malik's grip tightened, holding her in place. "Let go," she managed. "No." "Malik, you're hurting." "I don't care." The power surged again, harder this time. Tessa screamed. The sound tore through the room, raw and agonized. Malik finally released her, staggering back, his chest heaving. Tessa collapsed onto the cot, gasping. Blood trickled from her nose. Her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't control them. Malik stood frozen, staring at his hands like they were weapons. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't—" "Get out," Tessa whispered. "Tessa, please, just go." He left. Tessa curled onto her side, arms wrapped around her ribs, and felt the power inside her writhe like a living thing. It was getting stronger, hungrier, and she was running out of time. 2 days later, the enemy arrived. Tessa was in her chambers when the horns sounded, 3 sharp blasts that echoed through the citadel like a death knell. She stumbled to the window and looked out over the walls. An army stood at the gates, not a large one. Maybe 50 soldiers, all dressed in armor that gleamed like molten gold. At their head rode a figure on a horse the color of flame. Even from a distance, Tessa could feel the heat radiating off him. The Summer King's emissary. She'd heard stories. The Summer Court had been enemies of the Titans for centuries, their power rooted in fire and conquest. They'd waited out the winter curse, biding their time. And now, with spring returned and the Titans' bond fractured, they'd come to test the new queen's strength. Tessa's hands clenched on the windowsill. The horns sounded again. By the time she reached the throne room, Caspian, Malik, and Varen were already there. They stood in a line before the thrones, massive and imposing, radiating barely controlled violence. The air around them shimmered with heat. Tessa stopped in the doorway. Caspian turned first. His eyes widened. "You shouldn't be here. It's my citadel. It's too dangerous. I'm the queen." She stepped into the room, chin high despite the way her legs trembled. "Or have you all forgotten?" The 3 Titans exchanged glances. Before anyone could respond, the great doors swung open. Guards filed in first, forming a corridor. Then came the emissary. He was tall and lean, his armor polished to a mirror shine. Flames danced along the edges of his gauntlets. His face was sharp, beautiful in the way a blade was beautiful. When he smiled, it didn't reach his eyes. "Well," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "The Titans and their broken little queen. How charming." Tessa felt the insult like a slap. Caspian stepped forward, his voice a low growl. "State your business." "My business?" The emissary tilted his head. "I bring greetings from the Summer King and an offer. We don't need—" "He wants the queen." Silence crashed through the room. The emissary's smile widened. "The Summer King has heard of her condition, the power she carries. He believes he can stabilize it, cure her. All she needs to do is come with me, willingly." "Absolutely not," Varen said. "She's dying anyway," the emissary continued as if Varen hadn't spoken. "Why not let her die trying to save herself?" Malik's hands curled into fists. "Get out, now, before I tear you apart." The emissary laughed. "Such hostility. I'm only offering help." "You're offering a cage," Caspian said. "Perhaps." The emissary's gaze slid to Tessa. "But at least it's a cage where she might survive. Can you say the same?" Tessa's breath caught. The emissary took a step closer. The flames on his gauntlets brightened. What do you say, little queen? Will you take the Summer King's offer, or will you stay here and burn? Every eye in the room turned to her. Tessa looked at the